Women's right to sexual intimacy is enshrined in Islamic law, as evident from the Qur'an, the hadith, and the many stories of the early Muslims. One of the stories that I want to talk about is an incident which happened during the time of Umar bin Khattab when he was the caliph, the leader of the Muslims, the Amir al-Mu'mineen. So this story was related by Al-Suyuti, Jalaluddin al-Suyuti, in his book Tarikh al-Khulafa, the history of the caliphs. So he said, a woman came to Umar and said, my husband stands at night in prayer and fasts during the day. Umar said, you have praised your husband excellently well. Ka'ab ibn Sawar said, he was nearby, said to Umar, she is actually complaining. Umar said, how? He said, she claims to have no share in marriage from her husband, meaning her husband is not having sexual intercourse with her. Umar said, you have understood this much, then you should decide between them. Then he, Ka'ab, the leader of the believers, Allah has permitted him 4 wives. So she has one of every 4 days and one night of every 4 nights. So again, this is like an example of a woman approaching a man of authority. So in this case, the Amir al-Mu'mineen, complaining about her lack of intimacy. So she's complaining about her intimate rights, her marital rights. Now, women, like I mentioned, it's enshrined in Islamic law. Women have a right to sexual satisfaction from their husbands, and there's no shame in a woman asking for her rights to be granted to her. So this is an example where the woman went to complain to Umar bin Khattab, and she used a euphemism because she didn't want to be quite direct. But when she was saying that, he's such a great man because he's praying all the time, he's fasting during the day, Umar misinterpreted this to mean, mashallah, he's a very religious man and he's doing worship all the time. But she was using this as a euphemism to say, no, he has no time for me. The same way there are some men who are working all of the time and they're thinking about providing for their family financially and they're doing all sorts for the community, but they're neglecting their duties with their wife, whether it's not only physical satisfaction, but also emotional intimacy. So this is an example that women do have a right to not only emotional intimacy, but sexual satisfaction. And Ka'ab ibn Sawar, who understood, so there are some men who understand even how a woman may express herself more than others. So that's why Umar deferred the matter to Ka'ab to be the judge in that case and to say, mashallah, at least, because he's doing a lot of worship, at the bare minimum, because Allah has allowed men to have up to 4 wives, and we know that if a man is married up to 2, 3, or 4 times, he has to spend a night with each of those wives. So he passed the judgment that he said, okay, at least one every 4 nights, he must be intimate with you. And if he wants to obviously spend the other 3 nights in prayer, then that's fine. But at least one every 4 nights, he must be intimate with you. And based on this particular narration, this is why some scholars were of the opinion that men should be intimate with their wives, even if they do not have another wife, at least once every 4 nights. And then some scholars have said, it's based on a case-by-case basis. It's not necessarily one every 4 nights. So again, this is an example where Muslim scholars were very conscious of women's rights, of women's intimate rights and women's right to sexual satisfaction and pleasure. And it also illustrates that women, during the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the early Muslims, some of them were very vocal in asking or demanding their bedroom rights.